Welcome to the Voices of Healing podcast, where we give you holistic solutions to your health challenges. I'm your host, Tina Clark. I'm a shamanic Reiki master teacher. And today's guest is Bethany Shelton. She is the founder of Bee Limitless Now. And we are going to talk about the importance of energy, frequency, and vibration, and how that's important for leading a healthy lifestyle. So, welcome to the show, Bethany.
Thank you, Tina. I'm so excited to be here with you and your audience today.
We are too, and we're going to try to bring this down to earth for those of you who are already asking, why should I care about energy, frequency, and vibrations? But as a Reiki practitioner for 11 years, I know how important that can be. So, can you tell us more about yourself and your background, and how did you even get into this?
Now, this is where it's so mind blowing because before 2020, I had no idea about energy, frequency, and vibration. In 2020, my only child, Kevin, crossed back over into spirit. And here's where when I received the message, when my parents came to my job and said, Bethany, Kevin's been killed in a car wreck, a drunk driver crossed over into his center lane, hitting him head on, killing him instantly. In that moment, Tina, I was absolutely devastated. And the first things I can remember are I blamed myself. Like I was a bad mother. I didn't protect my child. Something's wrong with me. Blame, shame, guilt, grief, sorrow. And, I let out a scream so foreign to my body and I collapsed. But here's where it starts to slowly get a little more interesting. The day of his burial, I was in his room and I was on the floor on my knees and I asked God, I said, God, please give me some kind of sign that Kevin's okay. Well, as I'm walking away from the burial, it's a cloudy day and the clouds parted, Tina, and the most beautiful rainbow popped through. Now there's my sign. In that moment, I was like, oh, and I didn't realize how big this sign was until a little bit later on in my healing journey. But here's where something really began to shift in my body, being an aura and reality. I started to deep dive like NDEs, near death experiences, and what these people were saying about what they experience on an energy, frequency, and vibration when the spirit, the soul left the body and they were in the higher realms, that they did not enjoy coming back to the body. And so it was interesting. I didn't realize at the time, but I was starting to get an elevated emotions when I would hear these NDE stories. Well, something really began to change when one day I'm sitting on my couch and I said, man, I got to go get in the shower. Well, Tina, I go get in the shower, go pull my shower curtain back. And I pull it back and I look down and girl, there's coins, nickels, dimes, pennies inside of my bathtub. Now, I don't know about you and your audience members, but I know I don't I don't shower with coins in my hands nor in my pockets, So I picked up one of these coins and I was like, huh. I looked at it and I had my son's death year on it, Tina. And I was like, now that's interesting. Well, several weeks had passed and I get up out of the bed and make my bed as I normally do. And that night I come get in it and I pull my sheets back and what do I find? Coins. Man, what in the world is going on? 2 weeks had passed. I vacuumed my whole house, vacuum it all, go put the vacuum cleaner up, come back in my living room and look on my freshly vacuumed floors. And what do I find? Coins. Now, these coins were not just here. I just vacuumed. So I pick up a coin and it had my son's birth year on it. And I said, man, something's going on here. So I picked up the phone and I called my mom and dad. I was like, Mom, something's going on. I'm finding these coins all over my house. She said, Bethany, oh my goodness, your father and I were finding them all over our house too. I was like, what? She said, yeah. I think Kevin's trying to communicate with us. I said, what? I had no idea this was even, a thing. So I hung up the phone, Tina, and I run outside to my deck. And I said out loud, I said, Kevin, hey, buddy, if this is you, can you show up for me like a bluebird or a redbird? Tina, the very next day, I was stalked by a blue jay or a cardinal everywhere I went. I said, oh my goodness, this boy is trying to communicate with me. So that right there, I started to find that I would wake up in the mornings and I have an elevated feeling because the possibilities of possible communication with him again. But here's the thing about this. Kevin came to me in a dream and he said, Mom, he said, when I was in, and he calls his body, he called his body his meat suit and his concrete shoes. He said, Mom, the body is so dense. He said, it's like, walking around in concrete shoes through quicksand. That's how dense it is. And I was like, oh, wow. He said, but Mom, when I was in my body, and you and I communicated just like I'm communicating with you right here, right now, Tina. He said, we operated on the same frequency, the same vibration. He said, but Mom, when I crossed over and went back to energy, spirit, he said, I rose in frequency and vibration. He said, but Mom, you dropped because you were in grief, sorrow, hurt, blame, shame. He said, Mom, do you see how far that is for us to communicate there? Do you see how hard that is? And I said, oh my goodness. So my teams came in and said, Bethany, go take a look at that. So I went and looked and researched the emotional frequency chart. So grief vibrates at 75 hertz. Sorrow vibrates at 30 hertz. Well, guess where death vibrates at, guys? 0 hertz. So when I was in grief, sorrow, hurt, blame, shame, I was vibrating right next to death on a vibration level. Now, but these are things that we were not taught. We were not taught about we have an electromagnetic field, an invisible field that precedes us 6 to 8 feet out in front of us, 360 degrees around us. Now, when we are operating and we are in grief and sorrow, our electromagnetic field restricts and constricts in on us. When we are in those lower frequencies, we put ourselves the body goes into fight or flight. You do that long enough, guess what appears? Dis-ease. So isn't that interesting that by me locking and blocking myself, and not at the time, I didn't realize that I had a choice in what I chose to think and feel. And I was unconsciously choosing grief and sorrow. I was constricting in on myself and putting my body into fight or flight. I did not know what rest and repair felt like. But when you look at it from that aspect of a frequency, well, guess what? If there's a lower, then there has to be a higher. Well, guess what? God's consciousness vibrates at 1,000 hertz. Guess what? Guess where the next highest frequency is? It's gratefulness, gratitude. Joy vibrates at 540 hertz, and love vibrates at 500 hertz. So gaining an awareness of what you are choosing for yourself is huge, huge. So yeah, that's a little bit about how I gained the information about frequency, vibration, and what it was doing to my body, being, and soul.
Yeah, and I think you asked for signs, and he gave you a lot of signs, and when you asked for more, he gave you more.
But that's the thing, is that, if I would have chose to stay locked, blocked in grief and sorrow, like what you would think a grieving, a mother that has lost her only child would look like, the sign, because of the differentiation, it was so hard for him to communicate and give those when I was in grief, sorrow, and hurt.
Yeah.
So when I chose to elevate my my thoughts, my frequency, my energy, my emotions, because here's the thing is that we have several bodies. We have a mental body, an emotional body, a physical body, a spiritual body, a light body, and an etherical body. Now I'm just going to touch slightly on two bodies. That's the mental and the emotional. Our mental, our thoughts, our thinking, analytical, logical minds, when we think a thought is a frequency, it is a energy. And your mental body, this is your antenna. This is what you broadcast out into your electromagnetic field and out into the quantum field as well. So let's just say, if I was choosing to feel or think about grief, that is a frequency. And here's the thing is that we were told that our hearts is just an organ pumping blood through our body. Wow. I mean, it does do that, but this is your powerhouse. Your heart is your magnetics. This is your mental body is what you put out. Your heart is what you pull in, you magnetize in the experiences. And when it comes to energy and frequency and vibration, like attracts like. So if you are operating in these lower, what I call lower aspects of frequency, grief, sorrow, pain, blame, shame, fear is false evidence appearing real. If you're operating in that, you're only attracting more of that to you. So on a frequency, energy, vibration level, you got to gain awareness. So what I chose to do was when I would catch myself thinking thoughts that I did not enjoy thinking, I would instantly just observe it, shut it off. I'd place my hand over my heart, one on my belly, and just take that moment to breathe. Because when you shut the mind off and then you drop into the heart, what do you get? Absolutely nothing. You get presence.
Mm-hmm.
You get presence because I tell my clients, I tell them, I'm like, y'all, thinking is stinking. When you thinking is stinking because all you are doing is pulling from the past and the future, shoulda, woulda, coulda, ought to, need to, would had, and pulling it into your present moment. Because in your present moment, you now have choice. You now are sovereign. You now have, you can choose exactly what you want to think and feel. And when you start operating out of the heart, you then drop the victim mentality. You are now a conscious creator being. And I tell you, like my clients tell me, when they're operating out of that heart, they are a different being. You are operating so differently than the humanity around you, the collective around you. Because a lot of us are still operating solely out of the mental body.
Yes, yes. And I feel like a broken record at this point, that your thoughts are extremely important and your thoughts create emotions. And what do negative thoughts create? Anxiety, depression, unhappiness, stress. But I just feel like so many people are stuck in this negative loop or even like a victimhood loop.
Yeah.
They could be the nicest person and they're good people, but they just can't let go of this complaining all the time.
Mhm.
And
But
it's frustrating.
yes, but also you have to take a look at it from several facets because, a lot of us have been programmed from, one generation to the next. This is what we ought to do. This is what you should do. This is how we do it. And, they don't know that there is a different possibility, a different choice to be had. You know what I mean? And so it's that aspect, but also, like when my clients get to me, their cup on an energetic level, their cup is already full but we weren't taught this stuff. We weren't taught this. So, I go in all space, place, time, and dimension. And on an energetic level, I extract out. So then a different possibility can come into the field. Also, we like again, I feel like what you just said, I'm repeating myself, but we were not taught this. But when we go out into the collective, Like I told you before, we have an electromagnetic field. And I want to share a story real quick. Last year, I was in Florida having a family vacation. And, all of my family, we all brought coolers. We had a beach house and everything's great. And, for the first 3 days, we sat around the house and ate and fished and did all that stuff. Well, on that third day, my aunt came to me. She said, Bethany, we're going to have a cookout. We need hamburger buns. And I was like, oh, okay. She was like, so do you mind going to the store and getting some hamburger buns? Sure, would love to. Girl, when I get in that car, and I am so excited about this cookout because I already know what my aunt's sweet potatoes are going to taste like, the potato salad, the bean, all of that. So I get to the store, and nobody, when I pull up, there's not a car in the parking lot almost. But when I get in there, I get my buggy, and here I go. Well, I get to the bread aisle, and I get a quarter way down, and I grab my hamburger buns. Tina, when I looked up, there are 15 people now in the bread aisle. So I'm like, oh, great. So, as I'm not pushing, now imagine I've got 15 people. I've got to shimmy and shake. But guess what meets them for Bethany, the body does? My electromagnetic field. So as I'm shimmying and shaking, I'm shimmying up next to negative Nancy, Trainwreck Thomas, Lou, crazy Linda, all of this. Well, guess what? Their field met mine, and now there's a residue that has jumped off into my field, but I am unaware because I've been taught and told that I have to see it to believe it. Okay, that's one thing. So as I go back to check out, I am now frustrated. I'm aggravated. I'm agitated. I'm like, and remind you, I wasn't this way before I got to the store, right? I was excited about the potato salad. So I cash out, I get in my car, and somebody, cuts me off. And now I am absolutely furious. I'm calling them every name in the book. I'm frustrated. I'm aggravated. And then I'm talking about negative emotions. And I knew that these were not mine because they were talking about some crazy things. And I knew enough at that time. I was like, oh my gosh. So I drove up to the beach house. I ran in through the hamburger buns and ran up to the balcony because I knew that I could not allow my family to come into my energetic field and this residue pop off into theirs. So I have a very amazing tool I'd like to share with your guests, with your audience today of, gaining awareness of your thoughts. When you catch these thoughts after you've been out in the collective and oh shit, I don't resonate with any of that. Before you go home, you need to clear your field, energetic hygiene. And this is how you do it. All right, everybody take a big deep breath in. Any energy that is not of my most benevolent outcome must move in all 7 trillion miles in all directions out on 3, and it leaves 1, 2, 3. Now, by natural and universal law, any energy that is not of your most benevolent outcome must move in all 7 trillion miles in all directions. That right there, I cannot tell you, that is a huge, huge, huge key right there.
Yeah, I actually used something similar when I'm working with my Reiki clients. And as I'm working on them, I ask that any energies that it's not for their highest good must leave now. And it's interesting to see what leaves the body because I'm clairvoyant and I can see stuff, and I don't care where it came from. I don't care what it was, as long as it leaves. And I say, you can't return. You can't return to this person. So it's a very powerful statement to make. And I think that makes a good point, is be responsible for your energy because your energy affects others. It really does. Your thoughts, there are people like us walking around that can pick up on your thoughts. Like a receiver, like an antenna, we can pick up on your feelings. We can pick up on your nasty, mood.
Yes. When you're able to read the fields, and just like you, I can see it too. I'm very aware of it all. And when you start to read frequency energy, it doesn't lie. The
Hmm.
mouth lies, the brain lies, the mental body lies. But when you start dealing with energy and frequency, and it does not lie.
Yeah.
So it's
So what?
very interesting.
Yeah.
Very
So
interesting.
what does this have to do with holistic healing? This has to do with your energy field. And if your energy field, and she's already talked about the hurts and how the hurts drops with grief and sorrow and death is at a zero. If you're operating like this every day, all day long, that, you're eventually going to have health problems.
Mhm, mhm,
And you're unhappy anyway, you know? So it's all connected. Everything is connected. We're connected. Obviously, you go down the bread aisle and you're like,
mhm.
I love it like when I go somewhere and there's nobody there.
Oh,
And 10 minutes later, the place is packed full of people. And I'm like, where did all these people come from?
mhm,
And I remember my mother had the same thing.
mhm,
My mother would go and she said, this happens over and over.
mhm,
I walk into the store, nobody's here, and now a million people are here. Because on a soul or frequency level,
mhm,
you're sensing an energy that you want to be around.
mhm,
And it's like an attraction.
mhm, mhm. And they are unaware of it. They just,
Yeah.
it's just like, bees to honey.
And
That.
then I don't know if I said to my friend this morning, I said, I stir up people's demons because some people just don't like me. Like I haven't done anything. I'm a nice person. I come around and then they're all of a sudden like, hostile. And that's because of whatever issues they're having.
Yeah.
And the other thing is people can sense when you can you can tell they're bullshitting. And if they have a mask and you're one of these people that come around and go, I can see through the mask, they're already uncomfortable with you.
And that's the thing, like with my son, through the elevation of communication of frequency and vibration, now it's complete telepathy. Now that is totally freaking different than channeling, totally different. I don't
Mhm,
allow anything in my vessel, my body. No, not at all.
mhm.
It's just the telepathy communications. And, we all have it. But here's the thing is that it's so much easier to say blame somebody, shame somebody. I don't have this because of what, but it's taking a step back and looking. If you want to see the change, baby, you got to be that change. There's nothing to fix outside of you. It's all internal, all of it,
Yes. Hmm.
everything. And when you start operating through your heart, if you want information and not wisdom to come through, your channel is directly open to the higher realms, to the higher frequencies. You can't communicate with higher when you're operating in lower. You know what I mean? When you're
And you
operating,
can't communicate if your mind is full of chatter
uh-uh,
and
mm-mm,
crap.
mm-mm,
You've got to
mm-mm.
clear the mind for
And you
sure.
and that's the thing, the mind is the ego body, so it's really about, what you think about is what you bring about, and what you bring about you experience. So it's really taking a step back and saying, okay, what am I choosing for myself? What gets me excited? You've done that. We've all done the whole fear based, worry, aggravation, agitation, less than, not an, we've done that. Let's do something different. Let's see how that works. Let's choose an elevated state of love, compassion, understanding, gratefulness, all of that, and see how that then expands you out. And then you're in rest and repair, and everything becomes so, it becomes absolutely a joy, fun, excitement for each moment. Because, I always go off my highest excitement. If that's what sounds like fun, yeah, hell yeah, let's go do that.
I know. We're here to enjoy ourselves, not suffer. Have a good time, but do it and where you're not harming yourself or anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing that like my son came and told me. He said, Mom, he said, you and I had a soul contract. I said, oh yeah. He said, yeah. He said, you and I had a soul contract. I picked you as my mom before you embodied mom. He said, our contract was I was going to come in and give you the experience of grief, sorrow, sadness, separation, loss, hurt, fear. And he said, but Mom, how fun would and you agreed to experience it, but how fun would the test been if you knew all the answers? And that's the thing. You can communicate not only with your higher self, with God, source, your angelics, your galactics, your indigenous, and for me, my child, and many of your audience listeners, if they have a crossover, they are trying to communicate with you all the time. But I used to do this. I used to think that my child would have to communicate with how you and I are, and that we're humans in human body. He can't do that. There's different, ways now that he does that. So it's about, expanding out and being able to read the signs, synchronicities, and messages that come through from spirit.
Yep. And if you're all in your head, you're going to miss it.
You're not,
You're going to miss it
yeah.
because if you're in your head, most likely you're in the past or
Mhm.
worrying about the future, and you're
Future.
going to miss exactly what's happening in front of your face.
Yes. Bingo, girl. Bingo. Yeah.
And here's the beautiful thing. Once you start paying attention, more is going to happen. More synchronicities will happen. More messages will happen. More magic will happen because now you're paying attention.
Yes, and that's like another thing, that I get my clients to we really go in deep and we start to get new neural pathways in the brain operating and firing and people be like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, well, we are programmed. We've been for how many years have we brushed our teeth with the left hand or the right hand? How many times do you put your pants on with the left leg first? So I get them to start breaking patterns that they're unconscious that they're, it's just what I do. I always take my shirt off with or put my shirt on with my left arm first, and so I get them to start breaking those new neuro pathways to get a different awareness of self. I'm choosing something different. And
Mhm.
it could be just as easy as brushing your teeth instead of your left, you're right. But it takes consciousness and awareness to make that choice. You know what I mean? You have to be aware. Okay, I'm going to choose something different for myself, and start to do that. And also, a big thing is subconscious reprogramming. And a lot of people are like, "Well, what is that?" And and it's key. And when you get your both sides of your brain hemi-synced, then you sync up with your heart, then you sync up with your gut, your instinct. I'm gonna tell you what, you are one powerful being. Then you are a powerful being. And like you said before, and the the collective will respond to your presence because you are vibrating and operating on a different wavelength, a waveform than most to all of the collective around you. I don't know how many times I get people just come up to me and they just talk to me about some things I'm not that curious to hear about. But they just feel comfortable, and I drop into my heart because I have compassion, because a lot of people right now, with all of these solar flares, with all of this plasma light coming in, and we can all sense, feel, and see that paradigms are changing. The old ways are changing, and a lot of people that are unaware and unconscious are spinning out. They're lashing out. They don't know what's going on. All they know that they're frustrated, aggravated, agitated. And so when you show up in a different frequency of harmony, unity, and love, I'm going to tell you what, it's something magical.
Yeah. And find out why you feel that way, and if you even have a reason to feel that way. And if not, you're probably picking up on somebody else's thoughts and feelings.
Mhm. But that's one thing, that I do. I go in along with my galactic, angelic, and indigenous teams. I connect with my clients' spirit teams, and sometimes the soul is not on the evolution of. It's not. That's not what it's chosen for itself. It's here to hold the 3D structure in place. So it's all about going in and talking to their teams and seeing exactly what's what the soul's choosing.
Interesting. Well, good luck holding the 3D frequency because
It's
it's
not.
not really where we meant to be anymore.
Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. And I mean, have you noticed, Tina, or is it just me? I mean, I'm sensing, seeing, and I don't watch news because that's another thing I want to highlight real quick. This is how we were programmed to keep ourselves locked, blocked, and stopped. What is one tool that you think this has done to us? I was done this way, and I did it to my child. We all have a television. A what? A television. It is telling you a vision through visual and audio on repeat to get an emotion. Well, guess what? Guess how children from the ages of 0 to 7 intake information, not of logic, not through the mental body, but children from 0 to 7 operate with the brain wave of theta. Theta is the same waveform as hypnosis. Children intake information from 0 to 7 through visual and audio on repeat to get a emotion. Well, isn't that interesting? When my teams came and told me, said, Bethany, go research Disney. I was like, what? Yeah, go research the Disney program. And I was absolutely floored on a frequency vibration that what I was receiving. Lion King is all about grief, loss, separation, not good enough, less than, unworthiness. Dumbo, he wasn't good enough because all of the, and I have a whole list on my wall right here. Little Mermaid, Lilo and Stitch, Cinderella, Meet the Robinsons, Home Alone, Snow White, Christmas Carol, Bambi, Find It. All of these on a frequency vibration is all in lower aspects. All on, they are getting your electromagnetic field to collapse in on and run these programs. And what do you think we still tune into on the television to get our even more program? We turn on our TV, search, go to a channel and find a program in which we would like to watch. News, media, social media, all of it is on a frequency, is all to keep you locked, blocked, and stopped.
Yep, that's true. You're
Yep.
preaching to the choir here, but
Yep.
hopefully listeners are hearing something new and something different to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Once you see things, you just can't go
You
and
can't unsee it.
unsee them. Mm-mm. And once you figure out how this is all structured and worked and how we were raised, it's just pretty interesting. But I'm going to tell you something now. These babies coming in right now, these children are something miraculous. They already carry the frequency of the fifth dimension already in higher realms, and they are not here to construe and fit in that box. They're like, hell no, I'm not doing it. And so, of course, as Gen Xers and Aunt Boomers, we think that's a problem. But no, they're changing the frequency of the planet. And I'm gonna tell you what, we're gonna 100th monkey in on them because of their frequency when it comes time for the ascension. But really, ascension starts within. So
I mean, I'm with the new generation. I don't think I
yes,
ever cared for conforming to anything.
you're
So,
right. Yeah.
so can you give us some examples? Because I know that you have clients. How do you apply this frequency information to helping them with their health or to
Yeah.
achieve a healthier lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, I've got a course and it's called the 4 Keys of Creation. And so what I get them to do is we operate on two of the main bodies, the mental and emotional body. And then when we work through those, we then find I get them through to communicate and connection with their teams. And then we talk about the self-discovery, the program. As I said before, I go in on an energetic level and look and clear out in all space, place, time, and dimension, any locks, block stops, tethers, bounds, cords, nets that have been said and unsaid, known and unknown, heard and unheard, any oaths, bonds, rituals, agreements, that might have been agreed upon in all space, place, time, and dimension. So that goes from, past lives. And so, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So, can you give us an example of how this helped someone in their life?
Yeah.
Maybe one of your clients or
Yeah. So I have several clients that when we go in on an energetic level, they are curious. They question, they want to see if they can have communication with their crossed over loved one. And so we go in and, like I said, again, we go in on an energetic level. And what this does is it removes the residue and allowing for new possibilities to come in. We also work on manifestations. I had a client just last week. She was like, Bethany, I sure wish, I sure would like some money to come in. Well, it did. This week she had several hundreds just pop up out of nowhere. And it's that easy. It's that easy to manifest when you are operating in a different frequency. So yeah, it becomes pretty magical.
wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So, can you share, Bethany, where people can contact you and all the information to do that?
Sure. So the best thing I can give for people is my time. So if you go over to my website, BEE, like a bumblebee, BeeLimitlessNow.com. Book a free call with me. Let's have a conscious conversation. We'll go in on an energetic level. We'll take a look. I'll do a clearing and let's see, what's keeping you blocked and stopped. Number one. Number two place is, you're going to love this, Tina. So I just started a new podcast and it's called The Holy Shift Balls. And what it holy shift balls. And what it is we talk to all kinds of entrepreneurs, healers, guides, innovators, thought leaders. And what was the holy shifting moment in their life that allowed them to step into their purpose? So yeah, you can follow me on YouTube at Holy Shift Balls, and you'll find all the connections where to locate me there. There's like 20 other places you can find me. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's how you do that.
Yeah, sounds good. So, all of this information will be in the show notes. And thank you, Bethany, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And just to tell your audience, I just wish and I want you to all to know, would like for you to know how powerful, how magical, how amazing, and how divinely guided you truly are. So stepping into that energy is life changing. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.